Hello, friends, and my dear viewers. I welcome you all for this session, wherein I'm going to discuss about ecological adaptations of plants. In this context, first of all, let us classify the plants into the following categories. Number one, the hydrophytes, xerophytes, mesophytes, epiphytes, and halophytes. I think I need to give a one line brief about all these technical terms which I have used. Right. Friends, hydrophytes. The name itself reflects, the meaning. Hydro means water, phyta means plants, a plant. So, plants which make water as a habitat, they are classified as hydrophytes. That is, plants which live in water, they are called as hydrophytes. Next comes the xerophytes. There is a misconception, friends. Generally, we used to feel xerophytes means the plants which grow in deserts. But that is not the fact, because xerophytes are the plants which live under severe drought conditions. The plants which live under severe drought conditions, experiencing higher temperatures and experiencing very low precipitation levels, and of course, the land having a very low groundwater table. And in these kind of conditions, and these types of conditions or a habitat where the plant lives, they can better be called as xerophytes. Likewise, mesophytes. Mesophytes means generally the areas which experience all kinds of things like temperature, the precipitation, etc., in equal proportions. And the plants which make their habitats in those kinds of areas, they are classified as mesophytes. Friends, regarding epiphytes. Epiphytes, of course, it is also you can get from that word only. Epiphytes, the plants which live upon another plant. Say, for example, if there is a plant, it lives upon another plant, but not for shelter or food sake. Not for shelter or food sake. But in order to live, one thing I want to make clear, dear friends, there are few, plants where you don't find a specific shoot system. Friends, we all know that shoot system, basically it is present there to make the plant erect. Make the plant erect or to withstand. Uh, in uh, in some particular situations or conditions where we find the plants with not having specific or developed well-built this shoot system, and those kind of plants, they adapt themselves for that local conditions, and they depend upon the surrounding plants to survive. That is what about epiphytes. And with regard to halophytes, dear friends, the plants, of course, we all know that large amount of vegetation is found under the seas and the oceans also. Proportionately, if we compare the greenery, plants, the plant community, to a large extent, we can see in the water bodies only. Of course, the salt water habitat. So, halophytes means, friends, the plants which live in salt water habitats, right? Now I will give a definition for adaptation because it is necessary for us what adaptation technically or literally means, right? Adaptations. The modifications in the structure of organisms to survive successfully in an environment are called adaptations of organisms. So, one thing it is very much clear with the above stated definition. Adaptation is applicable to all kinds of organisms. Adaptations are applicable to all kinds of organisms, right? Generally, adaptations help the organisms to exist under the prevailing ecological habitat, and based on the habitats and the corresponding adaptations of plants, they are further classified as hydrophytes, xerophytes, mesophytes, epiphytes, and halophytes. Friends, first of all, let us deal with hydrophytes. And these hydrophytes, they are the plants which are living in water or wet places. So, plants which live in water or wet places, they are called hydrophytes. And according to their relation to water and air, according to their relation to water and air, they are subdivided into the following categories. Here comes free floating hydrophytes, number one. Second one is rooted floating hydrophytes. Third one, submerged floating hydrophytes. Number four, rooted submerged hydrophytes. Last one, it is amphibious hydrophytes. Friends, it is very easier for us because the meanings itself reflects what they mean literally. Okay, right. Now let us deal with the free floating hydrophytes. Free floating hydrophytes, these are the plants float freely on the surface of water, and they remain in contact with water and air, but not with soil. Very beautifully presented, dear friends. Free floating hydrophytes, they are the plants which remain in contact with water and air, but not with soil. That means these plants, they do not live on soil, or they are not getting rooted. They don't have their roots in the soil. So in that sense, they are not in contact with soil, but rather they are in contact with water and air. If we take examples, the best one are the Eichhornia, of course, Pistia, and Wolffia. One more thing I need to tell you, my dear friends. Wolffia, they are the smallest flowering plants. Wolffia is the smallest flowering plants. And friends, I think I need not go in detail, or I need not go back again to explain about the cryptogame and phanerogame. Okay, I just want to tell you that Wolfia is the smallest flowering plant, right? Now, let's move on to the second category, that is rooted floating hydrophytes. In these plants, the roots are fixed in mud, but their leaves and flowers are floating on the surface of water. So, friends, it is very clear. See what happens here. If you take rooted floating hydrophytes, these plants they are fixed to mud. Unlike the freely floating hydrophytes, where you don't find the plants having contact with soil, but surprisingly, these rooted floating hydrophytes, their roots are fixed in mud, but their leaves and flowers are floating on the surface of water. And these plants are in contact with soil, water, as well as air. Clear? And examples we can take the Nelumbo, the Nymphia, Potamogeton, and Marsilia. Right? Friends, I am going to give a beautiful illustration of different kinds of examples you can see here for free floating hydrophytes, where we can portray this Eichhornia as well as Pistia in case of free floating hydrophytes. And in case of rooted floating hydrophytes, Nymphia as well as Marsilia, they can be taken as the better examples. So, friends, I give a beautiful illustration with the examples falling under these two categories, like freely floating as well as rooted floating hydrophytes. Well, let us move on to the third category. It is submerged floating hydrophytes. These plants are completely submerged in water and not in contact with soil and air. Very, very interesting, friends. Submerged floating hydrophytes. These plants they remain in contact with soil and air, but submerged in water. Submerged in water, keeping in contact with soil and air. Ceratophyllum as well as Utricularia can better be taken as the examples. Okay, Ceratophyllum and Utricularia are the best examples for submerged floating hydrophytes. Now, friends, it's time for us to deal with rooted submerged hydrophytes. Rooted submerged hydrophytes, these are the plants which are completely submerged in water and rooted in soil, and of course not in contact with air. Very, very interesting thing, my dear friends. Rooted submerged hydrophytes, they are submerged in water and rooted in soil, but they are not in contact with air. They are not in contact with air. Hydrilla, Vallisneria, and Isoitis can be taken as the best suitable examples for rooted submerged hydrophytes. And now it's the turn for amphibious hydrophytes. The name itself indicates, my dear friends, of course, people from the biology stream, and not only from biology, any person having some good English background, they can understand from this word amphibious, amphibians. In In zoology, in discipline zoology, amphibians, they are the animals which make land as well as water as the living habits. They are better classified as amphibians. Same in that sense we can imagine in flora or in plant kingdom also, dear friends. So amphibious hydrophytes. These are rooted emergent hydrophytes. These are rooted emergent hydrophytes. And these plants are adapted to both aquatic and terrestrial modes of life. They grow in shallow waters, and the examples are Ranunculus, Typha, and Sagittaria. These are the best examples. And of course, friends, and I am presenting a beautiful illustration here containing one with submerged floating hydrophytes, giving examples with Ceratophyllum and Utricularia. And for rooted submerged hydrophytes, the diagrammatic presentation will be with examples of Vallisneria and Hydrophila, right? Of course, for the last one, the rooted emergent hydrophytes, that is the amphibious one. Uh, this is generally called as, dear friends, heterophily. It is generally heterophily. And for examples I am giving here is Sagittaria and Ranunculus. For the last one, that is rooted emergent hydrophytes. The best examples I am presenting in the diagram. They are the Sagittaria and the Ranunculus. Okay, friends, let us move on to the hygrophytes. Hygrophytes. Hygrophytes are the plants which can grow in moist, damp, and shady places. Examples may be Habenaria. Habenaria is a scientific word or the technical word for orchids and mosses. Friends, while dealing with the kingdom Bryophyta, we come across the mosses. Okay, right. And now, morphological adaptations of hydrophytes. Friends, let us have a small discussion, and then we can move into the that mainstream. Here, I just now said morphological adaptations of hydrophytes. For any plant or animal, maybe of course, let us confine ourselves to this flora only. Let us take example any plant. If it is supposed to lead its life in a different atmospheric or climatic conditions, then that particular plant has to adapt itself, or it has to undergo some specific adaptations, so that it can sustain or survive for that new atmospheric or climatic conditions, or emergent situations. In that context, that adaptations part, it should be taken from a morphological way or a physiological way, like phase or anatomical, etc. So adaptations means it may be of many kinds. That adaptations may be of a morphological or physiological or anatomical. Any of them. So if a plant is supposed to adapt the new living conditions, it has to undergo any one of these adaptations, right? Now we are dealing with morphological adaptations of hydrophytes, right? If you observe dear friends, the roots in hydrophytes, they are totally absent. They are totally absent, and particularly in Wolffia and Salvinia, they are absent or they are poorly developed. in Hydrophila and well developed in Ranunculus. And the root caps are generally replaced by root pockets. That is one of the morphological adaptations of hydrophytes. Here you don't find root caps, you just find root pockets. If you consider the stem, here the stem is long, slender, sponge, and flexible in submerged forms. In submerged forms. In free floating forms, the stem is thick, short, stoloniferous, and sponge. And in rooted floating forms, it is a rhizome. Friends, rhizome basically, again I need to go back to the underground root modifications, and of course we have modifications of stems also which are underground, freely floating, submerged, etc. and XYZ. Rhizome is one of the those kind of modifications, right? Now, vegetative propagation is through runners, stolons, stem and root cuttings, tubers, dormant apices, and offsets. These are all the technical things, dear friends. Of course, runners and stolons. Of course, here I did not mention about suckers also. That is the way of a vegetative propagation. And you can find these examples with grass. You can find with the grass. Grass generally it used to creep and it used to creep on the ground. Wherever the nodes touches the ground means the soil, and from that particular point again roots arise, and when it gets separated by any kind of mechanical stress or something like that, or from grazing animals, if it gets separated from the mother plant, it can lead its independent life. And in that sense, we can imagine these runners. Of course, these stolon suckers also leave it. Stem and root cuttings, generally we find many plants. We can just take the stem cuttings and we can those cuttings can be put in the soil, and we can see the formation of roots, etc. So that is that is one of the form of vegetative propagation through stems, the tubers, and here offsets means you can find in generally the hydrophytes. The offsets you can find, right? Now let us move on to the leaves, the morphological adaptations we find in hydrophytes from leaves. The leaves are thin, long, and ribbon-shaped in Vallisneria, or long and linear in Potamogeton, or they are finely dissected in Ceratophyllum. The floating leaves are large and flat, of course, as in Nymphia and Nelumbo also. Whereas in case of Eichhornia and Trappa, here the petioles become swollen and spongy. Dear friends, we can find, of course, nowadays due to pollution, pollution of these water bodies, generally majority of places, these lakes and ponds, they are being attacked by this Eichhornia, and there we can see these petioles, swollen, spongy type of petioles we can see. That is because of eutrophication of lakes and all. And in emergent forms, dear friends, the leaves show heterophyly. Heterophyly, that is submerged leaves, they are dissected, and aerial leaves, they are entire. Okay, that kind heterophyly, the meaning itself it reflects. Hetero means many, phily means the leaves. And if you observe or if you find two types of leaves in a particular plant, and that kind of situation is called as termed or coined as heterophyly, right? And the examples are ranunculus, limnophila, heterophila, and sagittaria, right? And now comes the anatomical adaptations, friends. Here, cuticle is either completely absent or, if present, it is thin and poorly developed. Friends, cuticle is the outermost layer, my dear friends. When anybody dealing with anatomy, they are very well familiar and acquainted with the word cuticle. Cuticle is the outermost layer that is covering the epidermis part. It is covering the epidermis part, and if you deal with cuticle, and while studying these anatomical adaptations in hydrophytes, whereas the cuticle it is either completely absent or, if present, it is thin and poorly developed. Single layer of epidermis is present, and cortex it's well developed with parenchyma. So, friends, one more clarification from my side. Now, I used the word parenchyma. Right, parenchyma. Parenchyma is a kind of tissue. Parenchyma is a kind of tissue that helps in buoyancy of a plant. I mean, it is just because of the presence of the tissue parenchyma, the hydrophytes they are able to float on water, right? Okay. And vascular tissues are poorly developed. In emergent forms, vascular elements are well developed, and mechanical tissues are generally absent except in some emergent forms. The pith cells are sclerenchymatous. Friends, I am here presenting a beautiful illustration of the transverse section of hydrilla stem. The transverse section of hydrilla stem, where you can observe clearly all these things, and particularly with regard to this parenchyma, here you can see the air chambers beautifully. Air chambers which are present in parenchyma, you can see very beautifully in this illustration, that is transverse section of hydrilla stem. I am presenting the picture here, my dear friends. You go through so that you can very well understand what are the anatomical adaptations that have been taken place in hydrilla stem. And now it's time for us to deal with physiological adaptations of hydrophytes. Physiological adaptations of hydrophytes. Friends, hydrophytes have the ability to withstand anaerobic conditions. Anaerobic conditions. It's a typical word I have just used, and that is anaerobic conditions. Basically, friends, my friends from the biology stream, we can well understand the word anaerobic while dealing with the process, the topic respiration. And while dealing with respiration, we come across this word anaerobic respiration. There, anaerobic means that is not means not having any air, etc. But here means literally it means anaerobic conditions means you don't find any air here, right? They don't require, they don't withstand. Hydrophytes have the ability to withstand anaerobic conditions means even though there is there is no air around, and in these anaerobic conditions they can sustain, hydrophytes can sustain. They possess special aerating organs also. They possess special aerating organs. I think, friends, this is sufficient for us. I have covered a lot more with regard to hydrophytes and various kinds of adaptations with regard to morphological, anatomical, and physiological, etc. I think it's time for us to conclude also. So, friends, I think let us have our next episode with xerophytes. With xerophytes, and similarly, what the types of adaptations that these xerophytes are going to take. And hope, my dear friends, you all enjoyed my session, and let's meet in our next episode. Thank you, one and all.